College football ready to rock and roll this weekend. Loved what I saw. Week 0 is the appetizer. Week number 1 was really good. Week number 2 was sort of a letdown. But week number 3, picking it back up here, Joe. We take a look at the AP Top 25. A lot of these teams in action this weekend, of course, but also more importantly, a lot of these matchups here ranked in the top 20. 2 of those games that stick right out, the Georgia Bulldogs and the Tennessee Volunteers and the Miami Hurricanes and the South Florida Bulls. So let's start with the big game of the weekend. It's Georgia, it's Tennessee, it's 3:30 p.m. It's in the SEC, just the way we love it. And setting up this game here, a favorite on the road for the Georgia Bulldogs at 3.5 with a total of 49.5. Oh, Rocky Top. Do they have an upset maybe brewing there? Is Georgia and Kirby coming to town and ruin that party?
Yeah, and keep in mind, it's because they opened up a much bigger favorite than that, Donnie, Georgia, but it has
Yeah.
been Tennessee money early on in the week, which has pushed it almost through that key number. And keep in mind, too, this is now going to be the third week in a row where Tennessee is down a couple of starting
Mm.
cornerbacks in that defense here. So will they be able to hold on? Aguilar has been phenomenal for Tennessee here. Georgia, it's amazing to me how little anybody talked about this team heading into the season. We had a lot of other people to crown, but Georgia wasn't in the conversation. Georgia will be very much in the conversation if they go to Knoxville and end up handling business against Tennessee here. But no, so far it's been all Tennessee money during the week, pushing this thing back down.
Tennessee as that home dog here. Everybody loves a good home dog. We'll see if we get points in that game. But love to see the SEC big games right at 3:30. It's where they belong. They're not really belonging in the top 20 all that much. It's South Florida, but you know where they belong? In the top 20. You knocked off back-to-back ranked opponents. You deserve to be ranked here. Miami comes in as a ranked team, knocking off another ranked opponent week number 1 in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And then you saw the Bethune-Cookman game last week. It is what it is. You get that blowout tune-up. And maybe you thought this game was going to be a tune-up as well. Not the case, but the line, Joe, opened up at 15.5. Now bet up to 17.5. A lot of people believe in the Miami Hurricanes and saying, well, how good was Boise and how good was Florida? Sort of knocking South Florida. I think South Florida, Joe, can stay within 17 points of Miami. I actually think that.
Well, that's what their books are hoping you think here.
Yeah.
But this is a terrible spot for South Florida. This is not good for
Three
them.
in a
I
row.
mean, it's the schedule. The fact that they won against a top 22, two top 25 teams back to back,
Yeah.
now have to travel down to Hard Rock in Miami to take on a much more difficult team here in the U than what they had in Florida. Never easy to win in the swamp, but this is going to be a different animal for them this year here in Miami. And I think, I think you want to believe that they can cover it, but they are not going to start 3-0 on the season. Donnie, they could very well get the doors blocked. And who could blame them? I mean, you started off 2-0 against two top 25 teams. If they get blown out here, can you really blame it?
No, you can't blame them there. But by the way, did you see the viral video going around with the South Florida Bulls coaching staff for like some of these secondary coaches, I
Yeah.
guess coming down from the press box and celebrating next to the Florida Gators coaches there? I'm surprised there wasn't more of a melee because understand this, college football at that level is high stakes.
Yeah.
That Florida staff is under so much pressure. And by the way, it's not that I don't think Billy Napier is a good football coach. He is. But the way that you say, like, do you not want me to succeed? Like the last 2 years of just the schedule for the Florida Gators, Joe, how can you
Yeah.
expect anybody to survive? And they're already walking on eggshells to have the South Florida Bulls celebrating right next to them as they go down the elevator.
Well, because listen, that's big brother, little brother. There's only
It is.
it's down I-4 from
Yep.
Tampa, going straight
They
up
won't play
towards
them anymore.
Gainesville there. Yeah, it's that's all those kids on South Florida and coaches. They were all denied by Florida there wanting to play football and get recruited. So there was a lot of confidence with that. And listen, they had gotten beat up over the last couple of years. Well, they'll have any opportunity to show that they belong if they start 3-0. I'll tell you that.
All right, let's talk about this next game, too, because I love this. And I've always been a hater of Notre Dame all throughout my life. I have no idea how they even got a TV deal, why anybody cares about them. They don't play in the national championship picture all that much. Oh, Donnie, they went to the championship game last year. When's the last time they won anything? I don't know. Before most of the people watching this program were ever born. But understand this. They played Miami, who's a good opponent on the road. Credit them for scheduling that game. Now they play Texas A&M, who's the 16th ranked team, but they are at home. After this, the easiest schedule I've ever seen a major division college football team have. Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, and Stanford. I want, as Tony Soprano would say, a full investigation on how this actually happened. Because, Joe, I fully believe this. They can lose to A&M. They're only two ranked opponents they're going to play on their entire schedule and still make the college football playoff. It shouldn't happen, but it might.
It will, Donnie, because there is no bigger cash cow in college football from a ratings and television perspective than when Notre Dame is prime time. So I can assure you they will look the other way a lot. And they have been for how long now? Let's be realistic here. But both these teams, big injuries. A&M lost their starting left tackle last week. Also, their quarterback, Marcel Reed, was also removed from the game. Keep an eye on his availability. And Notre Dame already in a couple of weeks has lost a big one of their starting defensive ends and another offensive lineman. So injuries starting to pile up for both these teams early on in the season.
Like, can you see that, like, when I have, like, the highlights and also the newspaper clippings by the end of the season, you'll hear this. Man, Marcus Freeman, what a great coaching job. They lost their first two games of the season. They're the hottest team in college football, winning games of 10 games in a row against little sisters of the poor university on a week-to-week basis. I can see it now. Marcus Freeman might actually win Coach of the Year for losing the only two hard games he had on the season and whipping up on a bunch of bums over the next 10 weeks. And that's all we're going to hear about how much they deserve to be in the college football playoff because of how hot they are at this point. Absolute nonsense here. They're favored to win. They probably will win that football game, but I just can't get over it. When I look at that schedule and say, this can't happen. This is where you force Notre Dame to actually play a real football schedule. Like, hey, Notre Dame, you think you're the best football team? Go in the Big Ten or go into the SEC and enjoy what Oklahoma is getting with the SEC right now. It's the only way to do it, people. Test yourselves. More college football games up next. Joe, we were probably set up here to have one of the best SEC games of the year. All the hype, pomp, and circumstance. Oh, my goodness. Billy Napier's got his boys back. They're ready to compete for an SEC championship. And then there's always LSU. Ooh, they got to escape and go to the other Death Valley and pick up a victory. LSU did that. LSU's unbeaten. Florida is not. They lost to South Florida at home last week. So some luster off of this game. A 7.5-point favorite for LSU in Death Valley, taking on Florida in a total at 48.5. This is one of those games where is Florida as bad as what we saw last week on offense? Can they rebound? It's an SEC game. Maybe it was a look-ahead situation for them, if you will, even though you shouldn't have been overlooking a team that just knocked off a ranked team with South Florida taking on Boise. What are the expectations for you, Joe, and how do you see this playing out, Florida and LSU this weekend?
Well, we have seen some crazy line movement in this game, Donnie, because we saw LSU open up as a 7.5-point favorite. It immediately got bet up to 9.5. And then the buyback happened again, brought it back down to 7.5, which is where we're sitting right now. But the total has also cratered, 54.5, now down to under 50 points. And who can blame them? Did you see LSU's game last week? It wasn't exactly like they ran over La Tech either, Donnie. That was another low-scoring game. 23-7, I think, was the final there. So, this, of course, you're going to look at this. Everyone's going to remember LSU manhandling Clemson, right? Nobody's going to think about what they did last week. They're going to see Florida losing at home to South Florida as a 18.5-point favorite. And everyone's going to be like, oh, my God, LSU is going to run. Not so fast. This is the time of the year where, when everyone runs left with the public, you tend to want to look right. And this is exactly one of those games. Do not sleep on a Florida bounce back here.
Let's go, Florida Gators. See what we have there in the tank and see if DJ Lagway can pull it out. By the way, he was looking at maybe being a Heisman finalist here. We'll get to that in just a few moments. But if we're looking at the national championship picture odds, Ohio State, no question, number one team here, best odds at a plus 550. And then I just look at, Penn State at this point. And I say to myself, all right, well, I don't know what to think. We knew they were coming back with a talented team, good quarterback, good running back situation, solid defense. But as in James Franklin fashion, they don't play anybody till like November every year, as it feels like. So their first 3 games are complete layups. I have no idea how to judge them, but I do get an interesting, kick out of the rest of the teams, the LSUs, the Oregons, and the Texas to see what we have. But Penn State's always an interesting one for me, Joe, because just like I rail on Notre Dame, where at least Notre Dame plays teams early, I don't get to see anything about Penn State or rate them to at least October.
Yeah, and what happens every year, Donnie? They eventually play top 5
Play
teams
Ohio
at the end
State.
of the season, and what happens? They lose, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. It's rinse and repeat. They beat up everyone they're supposed to beat until they get to top quality competition, and then voila, Franklin ends up figuring out a way to either beat himself or get beat. That is the MO for Penn State. Not going to change. I mean, you start the season with 3 cupcakes here, Donnie. What do you think's going to happen? But they're not running up the score like he has done in previous seasons with Penn State. He's not covering these 40-point, 38-point spreads that he's been laying here. So maybe this is a different Penn State season. We'll see.
By the way, shout out James Franklin, and this is the reason why you always have to back a James Franklin team. They didn't cover last week, but they tried. Joe, I had a parlay on Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton to each get a touchdown. There were 3 minutes left in that game, Joe. Neither one of them had scored. Final score, they both scored a touchdown. It's unbelievable. Like, James Franklin will make sure his guys eat at all times, no matter what part of the game is. So shout out James Franklin for putting some money in my pocket. How about the Heisman Ladder? The power rankings here heading into week number 3. Now, for me, Joe, if I go over these power rankings, looking at John Mateer, first time I ever saw him play was last week. I actually like what I saw. Carson Beck, for me, seen him play tons of times at Georgia. I'm an SEC fan and also a Miami Hurricanes fan. Sawyer Robertson, never heard of the guy until Joe Lisi brought up his name last week. Devin Dampier, couldn't pick him out off a milk carton box. Jordan Maeva, never heard of that guy. Garrett Nussmeier, I know that guy. Tammy Castellanos, I know him. Dante Moore, never seen him play. Taylor Green, could be a fake name. And Diego Pavia, I do know him. That's my power rankings, Joe. How do you like that breakdown?
No, that's outstanding. Him. I'd be a former, I believe, UNLV quarterback there, transfers now. But listen, there's a lot of football to be played. And again, it's not like Beck is interesting. I mean, you talk about a dude who's been playing college football for a million years, has lost, 3 games? And we're not going to consider him as maybe a front runner here and a possibility if the U runs it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of football and a lot to be decided as far as the Heisman favorite as weeks move on.
All you need is one good week. Tommy Castellanos. Anybody asking him if he was going to be a Heisman Trophy winner before the season? Absolutely not, people.